What to do if your investment property catches fire. That's today's episode. Let's dive into it. Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode. If this is the first time you're tuning into Nora Rice, this is your channel for real estate education. So today's topic is going to be purely informational, right? I wanted to share with you my experience of what it's like to actually having to fix a property that caught fire. So what happened, this was actually back in October of last year. I had a tenant who was actually cooking, and for whatever reason, maybe she wasn't paying attention, maybe she went to the other side of the house and forgot that she was cooking. It caught fire. It caught fire and it was pretty bad, as you can see in some of these pictures right here. The kitchen was burned pretty badly, and then the smoke extended beyond the kitchen. So we needed to do a repair. Otherwise, the property will be deemed unlivable and unsafety for any tenants to live in there. So what I wanted to do is to actually share my experience and note the steps that my property manager and I follow in order to get the property rent ready and nicely renovated, just like you see here in this video right now. And for that to happen, we're gonna dive straight into my tablet. So first thing first, the fire happens, right? You already know the food got burned, so the fire happens. And then what my tenant did was that she reached out to my property manager. So my property manager went straight on site, property manager on site, to basically check out what really happened, to deal with the situation, interact with the fire department because they obviously showed up in place. And next thing he got was a copy of the fire report, right? From the fire department, the fire report. Then what he did was to call out our insurance company in order to leverage the funding to rebuild the property so that way we can get it rent ready again. And when he reached out to the insurance company, this is basically what happened. So they're gonna request a copy of the fire report, this one right here in step 3, and they will also send their own investigator, just to make sure that you're not trying to do fraud. And within reason, right? There are a lot of people out there who are trying to take advantage of the insurance company. Maybe they want to get the property renovated and bring it up to the latest market standards, the latest trends, but they don't necessarily want to spend their own money. And unfortunately, they just take extreme measures to get access to this funding, and that's by taking advantage of the insurance company. So they needed to make sure that the investigation happened and that we were in fact a legit case and not just trying to get insurance money out of the blue. So that whole investigation took somewhere, I will say, 6 months. And I know it's a very lengthy process and it was a very painful one because while this investigation happened, this whole pandemic was happening at the same time. So you can imagine how stressful it was to a certain degree. I started encountering some of the tenants having difficulties paying, but like I said, fortunately, I had some Section 8 tenants and Section 8s always pay. So we were able to leverage some of the fundings that came from other rentals in order to take care of some other mortgages of properties that were in fact vacant. So this whole thing took an average 6 months. Why did it take so long? You might probably wondering. So here we are. So the investigation, like I said, we're talking about 6 months. So what made this take so long is because you have this one person, the investigator, come in and measure the amount of losses that you got. After that, then you have to work in coordination either with the landlord or my property manager in this case to bring contractors in to get the right quote for the renovations, because they need to see, okay, this is the extent of the damages, how much is it going to be for a contractor to come in and bring this property rent ready. Then after you get the quote, then this has to go through an internal review or an internal approval process, because they need to make sure that whatever quote it's the real market standard quote and that you're not in fact trying to just milk insurance money out of your insurance. So once this entire process happened, 6 months later, I was able to finally finally get my check. But even with the check, it wasn't an easy transition, because what happened was that because I did a cash out refi and also use a mortgage at the same time, the check was actually addressed to 3 parties. It was addressed to the mortgage of the cash out refi. It was addressed to the bank that issued the financing mortgage for me to purchase the property, and it was also addressed to my LLC. So this whole thing was actually a nightmare, because imagine trying to find the banks to endorse your check in the middle of a pandemic, right? So I had to call 1-800 numbers, try to get in touch with the lenders in order to get to the right department. I had to grab the check, have it FedEx over to the first bank, because the signatures, they also have to happen in order. So let's say, for example, you have bank 1 and then bank 2, and then it's my LLC. If you have the checks endorsed in a different order, everything has to start from scratch. You have to take the check, or you have to reach out to the insurance company and say, you know what, I'm sorry, the checks were not signed in the right order. Can you issue me another one? And God knows how long that would have taken. But this whole process in itself, just to get these checks ready, properly endorsed, took an average, I will say, 2 weeks to have those endorsed. Luckily, the banks were very efficient, and I had the right contacts. I was able to get in touch with the right people in the right department, and they had all of that taken care of for me. But just the whole ordeal in itself was very stressful. Imagine having a property with 6 months of no rent coming in, and you are trying to maneuver and move funds around from one property or another so that you don't foreclose in that particular mortgage. Not just that, not foreclose in the middle of a pandemic, right? So it was definitely a lessons learned, a very experience, although painful, a very nice experience to learn, because if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be able to create this episode and share my experience with you, so that hopefully you know what to expect in the event that a similar situation like this happens to you. So while I still have you here, once again, do not forget to hit the like button right here so that you can help this channel rank, and also check this episode right here that's going to help you complement everything you just learned today. Take care. Bye-bye.